Well, hello model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. This is Raul. This week I'm going to feature one of my builds here. This is a 67 Chevelle Super Sport 396 car. And for 67, the Chevelle was available with the Super Sport package, which came with a 396 engine, which was now standard, but there was a few different versions of the 396, but it's one of the few Chevelles that by year would actually tell you by the VIN number that it's a Super Sport. So to me, that's kind of interesting. So for the first few years, starting with the 64 Chevelle when that came out, the VIN number actually started and it would tell you Malibu Super Sport with the 6-cylinder or Malibu Super Sport with the 8-cylinder. So the VIN would tell you that it was a Super Sport, but it wouldn't tell you what motor it had in it. Now for 64 and 65, the Super Sport package was just an appearance package, came with bucket seats and the console and all of that, but really didn't pertain to a particular motor. Now in 66 that had changed. They started to come with the 396. There is an exception in 65, but the VIN didn't tell you. The Z16 396 was when it first appeared in the Chevelle, and 201 of those are made with a 396. But that was a special package on top of the Malibu Super Sport. See, 64 and 65, they were Malibu Super Sports. In 66, they became the Super Sport 396. And also in 67 was the Super Sport 396. But the VIN would actually tell you that it is a Super Sport. What's kind of interesting there is the 396 was not available in anything but the Super Sport. There is one exception, the El Camino. In 67 and 66 there was no Super Sport El Camino. So you could order an El Camino with the 396 in it. When it came to the Chevelle, you had to get the SS package, the Super Sport 396 package, to get the 396. So while the VIN doesn't tell you specifically that it came with the 396, it did tell you it was a Super Sport packaged car, which gave you the hood and some different trim here and all the emblems on the outside that say Super Sport, but not a whole lot of Chevelle or Malibu packages, even though it was on top of the Malibu package. So some fun there with the VINs. Now in 68 that still applied. When it came to 69, that's when the SS package disappeared out of the VIN number, and 69, 70, and 71 Chevelles, very easy to fake a Super Sport, because nothing in the VIN will actually tell you it's a Super Sport, just that it's a Malibu Sport Coupe and it has to have the code for 8-cylinder engine. Didn't tell you which engine it had, it only said 8-cylinder or 6-cylinder in the VIN. It was a Malibu Sport Coupe 6-cylinder, Malibu Sport Coupe 8-cylinder as far as the VINs went. The rest could be faked, modified the car, doctor up the paperwork if you got the build sheet. But that's why those cars, if they have the build sheet and they have known history or documented history going way back with collectors, those cars get the big money. Not all of them have that paperwork or that kind of documentation, which is why you see values jump all over the place, and why so many barn finds that turn up and haven't shown up in 30 years, if they don't have the paperwork, they're very skeptical, especially if it's a barn find and it's freshly restored and there aren't really any pictures or documentation of what they started with when they did the restoration. Those get very skeptical. Most of them, it's like, okay, that's a clone, a very well done clone. Nobody really knows, but those cars are out there. But when they know the history and they know the documentation, they got all the paperwork, but the paperwork can be faked. But that pertains to the 69, 70, and 71. Now, interestingly, 72, the VIN won't tell you it's a Super Sport, but that's when Chevrolet did add the digit in the VIN that actually tells you specifically if it has a 350 in it, 307 in it, 454 in it. If it has the 454, the only way you can get that is the Super Sport package. 402 was available in the car, but didn't have to be a Super Sport to get that. But that pertains to 72. So year to year, There are quite a number of differences in the VIN, and I kind of like that stuff, and I like to read into it. But to me, it's kind of fun just to know that stuff and research that stuff. But when it comes to this build here, which has a lot of personal history with it, with me, this is the Revell version right here, and it is the 67 SS 396 car. But it was when it first came out. I was in high school in 1990, 1989, 1990 when this kit and the not just the Revell version, but the AMT came out with the same exact car at the same time, literally months apart. I don't remember which one came out first, but at the time I had met one of my very good friends, almost a best friend. Well, he is one of my best friends, and in high school, I didn't know what a Chevelle was. I was raised Ford. I knew about Fords, Thunderbirds, Mustangs, Fairlanes, Falcons. So I was raised Ford, but I knew what Camaros were, Cougars were, Corvairs. I had a neighbor that had some Corvairs, and those were very interesting cars. But when I met my friend Matt in sophomore year of high school and found out that his first car that he owned was a 66 Chevelle, I didn't know what a 66 Chevelle was. So I went and looked at it, and it was not a running car. It was a 300 Deluxe two-door, which is a very rare version. Came with a six-cylinder. Nothing special, but an interesting variant because that doesn't have the pillars like this, like you would see on 66 Chevelles. But it was a two-door post, and it had a completely different roof. Neat car, but he never actually got that car running and driving. But me and him, we were good friends. He actually built models too, and we both purchased these models at the same time when we both built them. Now, we wanted a 66, but a 66 was not available at the time, other than the Revell monogram tilt front end race car. And I built one of those too. But I built this car back then with him. We built a couple of them. I don't believe his still exists. It may or may not, but I don't believe it does. But mine actually this is my build from that time. So about 1990 is when I built this. And right out of the box, there's some inaccuracies, but I didn't know Chevelles much at the time. But I pretty much just found what I found in magazines and built this car. I did a pretty good job, I think, and the model went together really well. I really enjoyed building this model, and kept it. Now I'll put in some pictures here because you're seeing this car. I did buy the AMT Pro Street version, and that was a neat one to build. And I know both of these have been reissued multiple times. And I built the Pro Street run. I'll put some pictures in there of that one too. And really thought that was cool. I did it black also, like this one. And it had the funky scooped hood. And when I first got back into modeling, so the pictures that I'm showing up here have a cowl induction hood. That's a resin hood I bought from somebody. And I painted it black and added it to the car. But the rest of the build was from that time too. Now sadly, and I kind of regret it, I sold that one on eBay. It was one of the ones I actually sold, just trying to make room for all of my new builds when I really got back into it and started building. But I sold that one. There's a couple of them I sold that I regret selling that I wish I kept. But I kept this one. And the other one that I was talking about is I took a 66 Chevelle, the tilt front end, and I wanted to make it more stock, but I couldn't. I ended up molding in a cowl hood from a vacuum formed hood, and I cut the hood free, glued the fenders on, and I kit bashed it with the Corvette ZR1. So I'll put pictures of that one in here as well, where the chassis had all the Corvette ZR1 front suspension from, I believe it was an AMT kit, the Corvette engine in it. I put 427 emblems on the side of the hood, which was part of a license plate, and put that on the hood, not glued it, but water slide decals. And it wasn't clear coated, and I actually liked it, and it was one of my first kit bashing ones, and that was before there was any kind of pro touring. And that one came out really nice, and sadly that is one I regret actually selling. I sold that on eBay as well. Maybe I should do a video of the models that I built that I do have pictures of, but sold or lost or whatever happened to them, and kind of regret that I didn't keep those, but I've got many of them, which is why, all of my current builds, I hold on to them and don't get rid of them. But getting back to this one, as you can see, it's 30 years old. It's actually weird to think that this build is actually 30 years old, and I didn't freshen it up. A lot of my builds over the years, I tore them apart, redid them, foiled them, restored them. This one, for sentimental reasons, I left it alone. This is one of my builds from high school. It's one of my last builds before I really got my license and started to go out. But I had a few friends in high school that built models, so I did build a few more in high school, but the interest was going away. But this is one of the ones that got completed, and it's got the white letter tires, which really weren't available in '67. I believe this is a spray painted paint job. It may be airbrushed, but I'm pretty sure this is a spray painted, going by the way the texture is on the body, and you can kind of see it in the shine, the decals and everything. There is no clear coat on this, and you can see the window frames are actually done in silver. There's no bare metal foil. Some of these I've actually taken apart, polished the paint, and foiled them and put them back together and left the paint jobs alone. This one I've completely left alone. I've got some glue smudges on the hood here, some sanding marks where I had sanded but didn't do a very good job. I think I was trying to make the paint a little bit better. And you can see there's just some things going on here at the paint. And then I got, when I was doing this painting, you can see a silver fingerprint where I had gotten fingerprint and touched it when I was doing the silver. And I did the whole interior in red. I did the carpet in black, which I don't think is actually correct. I think when it's red, the entire thing is red, not just the dash, seats, and console. But again, the internet wasn't around back then for the most part. My mom actually was on the internet, so I could look at some stuff. But there really wasn't much of an internet in 1990, 1991. We can get into MS-DOS and stuff like that because my mom did connect to other computers through that. But built this one and with reference to magazines, and I really enjoyed it. And what's funny is I do have another one of these Revell kits that I bought many years ago. It actually started it. I got into my stash of stalled projects, and it's marked 2012. And part of the reason it's kind of been sitting there is it's a great kit and I want to build it. But my biggest stall was, do I make it exactly like this color combo? Do I paint it black, red interior just like I did on this one, make it a bit more factory correct? There's the 396 engine there. And make it a little bit better, because Revell gives you a lot of nice detail. And the AMT kit is just as nice. I don't know if I can say which one I prefer over the other, but they're both nice kits from that time frame. And then painting this whole tail panel, which was all brush painted, and then I would use a toothpick to scrape the chrome visible through the paint, and that came out okay. The decals for the license plate is falling off, but the whole underside is just right from the kit. I didn't do anything modifications to this build at all, but it's got the manual tranny in there, and I just remember really enjoying this build. And it came out nice, and to have it this long and to be one of my survivors where I can look at it and I can nitpick all the things that the flaws that I pointed out, and some of the things going on. It could use a good polish, but I left it alone. These decals could easily come off. Not the greatest job around the emblems, but that's silver paint. It's not bare metal foil. Got the mirrors on it. But she's just one that brings back a lot of memories. But especially with my friendship with my friend Matt and his 66 Chevelle that we played with and messed around with, but we never got that thing running. And he eventually bought a 69 Buick Skylark, and that was his first driving car. And then he bought a 71 Buick Skylark, and we had a lot of fun. And I had my mom's station wagon, but at the time, he pretty much introduced me to Chevelles. I didn't know what a Chevelle was. Now I own one. Well, actually, my wife owns one, but we have the one. And I've got many models I built of them. But this is one of the older ones. I think it is. It's definitely the oldest Chevelle I've got, because the other two that I built at that time are both gone. but this one's still here, and I've got the other one to build. So I'm real curious, if I do the other build, in my current level of quality and build, do I keep the same color combo, make it exactly like this one, or do I pick another color combo? That's what stalled the project, is it's sitting there and I don't know what to do. Fun build, and it's a good kit. If you build one, it's an easy kit to build, but it's a nice kit to build. I'm pretty sure those tires came with it. They're not the correct tires. It should have white line or red line tires for a 67. That's how I built it, and really enjoyed it. But I've kept it. It's not one I've stashed away. This one's actually been in my display case. I even pulled it off of my wall. It's been in the case. But that's probably enough of this one, and a trip down memory lane for me. And I wonder how many of you guys have got builds this old, but I'm sure a number of you do. But thank you for tuning in and subscribing and watching and all your comments. I really appreciate it. And you guys, you have a wonderful Saturday, and I'll see you next weekend.